Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and today we're going to be working on part 2 of our kids playtime capsule. Last time we worked on getting our pocket Henley and our Chapman cardigan done, and that was super cute. This time we're working on our Zane hoodie and our fly pants. And I am actually going to be making 2 Zane hoodies because there are so many options with this hoodie that I wanted to make 2 different ones, and then our fly pants. So let's go ahead and get started on this sew. Alright, so like I said, I have 2 different ones and I'm super excited. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our bodice and we're going to open it up, and there is our bodice. It's color blocked with the bottom. So I'm going to grab my color blocking piece and put it right sides together at that bottom. And we're going to match those raw edges at the bottom and sew it together. Now for the back of my one top, I went ahead and overlapped my pattern pieces by 1/4 inch, which is our seam allowance, and I left the back straight. So I didn't color block the back, so that's a different option. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin all of these, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew them at the bottom. Now also, while I'm at it, I'm gonna grab my pocket pieces. So these are my pocket pieces. As you can see, this is where my pocket goes. And we're gonna put them right sides together, our liner and our outer. And we're going to sew all around, chirp, 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 except for the bottom piece. We're not sewing the bottom of it because that's gonna get sewn on when we attach it to our band. So we don't need to worry about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin all these, sew around the whole pocket. If you're making a pocket, if you're not, then you skip that part. Sew around the whole pocket, top and sides, not the bottom, and then put our bodices together at the bottom, and then we'll go over there and sew it. I'm going to be using my serger, but if you don't have a serger, no worries. You can use a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, lightning bolt stitch, zigzag stitch, any kind of stretch stitch you love, your favorite stretch stitch. So yeah. All right, everything has been sewn, and I'm going to open up my seam and steam. I like to steam. I think it makes a big difference when you steam your fabric open on everything. So I'm gonna do that. And then if you want to go ahead and top stitch, you can go ahead and top stitch all of them down. It is up to you. I probably will go ahead and top stitch just because I like the look of top stitching. Then we're gonna grab our pocket, and we're also turning that pocket around. Make sure you poke out those little areas. Sometimes I just like to use my tweezers and I just kind of poke out lightly. Don't do it too hard that you end up ripping a hole right through it. And poke out those corners and steam. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and top stitch that area where your pocket's gonna go, because that's not gonna get top stitched. Everything else will get top stitched when you attach it, because that's how you will attach it to your bodice, kind of top stitch it on. But obviously the pocket won't be top stitched because of the fact that that's where you're gonna stick your hands through, so you can't top stitch that to the bodice. So if you want the top stitching on the pocket, you need to go ahead and do that before you're attaching the pocket. So I'm gonna steam it really good. And then I will head over to my cover stitch, which is what I'll be using to top stitch, and I will top stitch the sides just right here where the pocket, where your hands are gonna go in. And once I top stitch the sides, I'm gonna grab my front bodice. Let me make sure this is my front. Yeah, my front is the one that's a little bit lower, my back is higher. So I'm gonna grab my front. I'm gonna grab and find my middle. And I like to just mark it by, if I find my scissors, by making a little notch, which I'll need later for when I attach my my band anyway. So, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the same for my pocket, fold it in half and mark my half. And then I'm going to match up the half of my pocket with the half of my bodice, and that's where my pocket's gonna go. So after I have already top stitched these sides, remember, do that first, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my pins and pin my pocket to my bottom of the bodice, and then I'm gonna top stitch on the side, the little pieces down here at the bottom, and then the top. Now you don't want to top stitch the pocket again because that's where your hands are gonna go, well, your kids' hands, so you don't want to top stitch it closed. So we'll top stitch the top and the two little bottom sides. That's what will be our next step. So I'm gonna do that to all my bodices and top stitch my seam, so that's what you'll see. So let's do that. All right, my pocket is on, sewn on to the top and the sides. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna grab our front and our back, and we're going to match up our shoulder seams and sew those together. Okay, so I'm gonna pin and sew those. And you know, I told you I'm making 2 of these because I'm making 2 different versions. I'm gonna go ahead and sew that, but I'm gonna show you. I already sewed this ones together, so all I did was sew right there. I'm gonna go ahead and do our sleeves. So I'm gonna open it up after we sew the shoulders, and we're gonna grab our sleeves. Now, if you're going to do the like layered sleeve look, what you're gonna do is you're gonna hem the short sleeve first. So you go ahead and hem it, and then you're gonna grab your main sleeve, your main long sleeve, and you're gonna place your short sleeve right on top, and you're gonna baste them together with a long straight stitch on your sewing machine, and you're gonna treat them as one sleeve when we go to put them on. Now I'm not doing the layer look, I'm doing a short sleeve on one and a long sleeve on the other one, so I'm not doing that step, but that is what you will have to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark the top of my sleeve. So I folded my sleeve in half, I'm marking that top, and then I'm gonna place it right sides together on top of that shoulder seam we just created when we went ahead and sewed the shoulders together. So right here. And then I'm gonna do the same for the other side, and once I sew the shoulders on my other top, I'm gonna do the same for that one as well. So long sleeve, short sleeve, any kind of sleeve, these are the same steps we're taking for all of them. We are so close to being done. So now we're gonna go ahead and match up our sides and sew those raw edges together on the sides. So this is the short sleeve, so obviously you just go to the short sleeve, and then the long sleeve you're gonna go all the way down to the end of the long sleeve. And then we're gonna go ahead and attach, after we do that, we're going to work on our cuffs. So I'm gonna sew all the sides, and I'm also gonna grab my cuff and I'm going to fold it right sides together and sew that raw edge on the side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sew them all together. Now I'm only doing cuffs for one of these, so that's why I only have one set of cuffs. But you know, if you're doing cuffs for all of them, you'll have 2 sets of cuffs. So, well, if you're doing 2 shirts like I am. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish, I'm saying, first I thought stapling, then I thought buttoning, none of which are correct. I'm going to finish clipping my bodices together. I'm gonna sew those sides, and then we're gonna move on to attach our bands. We have our armbands, and if you don't have armbands, you'll obviously will be hemming this, and then we'll move on to neck and waist, and we'll be done. All right, my sides are done, and for this one, which I'm just doing sleeves, short sleeves, I'm just gonna go ahead and fold in 1/2 inch and hem. So this one I'll just go over there and hem on my cover stitch. You can use any kind of stretch stitch on your sewing machine for hemming. And then for this one, I am doing my cuffs, and I already, like I said, sewed the cuffs together, right sides together, and make it like one continuous cuff. Now I'm going to fold it wrong sides together to make it an actual cuff. And I'm going to match up these, first I'm gonna let's match up these seams right here on the side. And then I'm going to find my half. I like to go ahead and find my half for my cuffs. And then that way I can match those with my sleeve. So here's my half. I'm just marking it again like I mark everything else. And I'm gonna get my sleeve and see I've got my seam right here. I'm gonna go over here where my half is. Then I'm gonna fit my cuff inside my sleeve and match up right sides together where the seam is right here, and then where I marked the half right here. And I'm gonna do that for both. Then we're gonna go over to the serger and sew all on the round. So I'm gonna, whoop, there went my clip. I'm going to pull my cuff to even out my, so it's the same as my sleeve. And then I'm gonna sew around it. And I'm gonna do that for both. And then we're gonna move on to our waistband. So what I'm gonna do just while I'm at it too, is I'm gonna grab my two waistbands and I'm gonna put one right on top of the other and match up those raw edges and sew them together. So let's go do that. Alrighty, almost done. I am loving how these are turning out. Super, super cute. I think my son is gonna love them. Okay, so waistband, we're going to fold it right in half and pin those sides. And then we're gonna find our halves by folding and matching those sides and then going to the front and the back. Then we're gonna do the same thing for our waistband. And you remember we already found the front of our waistband when we were attaching our pocket. So we just really need the back. Then we're gonna go ahead and grab our waistband and we're going to fit it and match up those raw edges right sides together. So those side seams, match them up. One side seam and the other one, and then your front and your back. And then we're gonna go ahead and sew that whole bottom raw edge together. All right, our waistband is done. We just go ahead and steam it. Look at how good this is going to look. Oh, wrong way. How good this is gonna look. I am loving it. And then here's my other one already as well. And so what I'm doing for this one, I'm going to do a neckband. So I'm gonna grab my neckband, I'm gonna fold it wrong sides together, and I'm going to steam it. Okay, and then because I want to give it a memory crease, so that's why I steamed it, then I'm gonna go over and sew the raw edges together, right sides together, those little raw edges. Okay, so I have that one prepped. And for my hood, so to sew it together, we're gonna grab our liner. This is my outer actually. And we're gonna put them right sides together. And we're gonna sew around the crown, like this big area right here in the back. And we're gonna do the same for our liner, and we're gonna do the same, yeah, our outer, and then for our liner as well. So go ahead and sew that up. All right, so let's go ahead and work on the neckband first. I'm gonna go ahead and fold my neckband wrong sides together and match up right here at that back edge and fold them all back into that memory fold we did earlier. We're gonna go from the back to the front and mark it, and then we're gonna match our front and our back and mark our quarters for the sides. One side and then the other side. And then we're gonna grab our top and we're going to mark our quarters for our top as well. Front, back, and then our sides, because our sleeves are not our sides. So we're gonna match our front and our back, and we're gonna go to the side, one side, front and back, go to the other side. And then we're gonna grab our band and we're going to match it, matching those seams, those quarter points and your raw edges together. I'm gonna head over to my sewing machine and sew that neckband, and this one will be done. So cute. To sew my neckband on, I like to start with the back. I'm gonna find my back, and I like my band to be face up, so I want to be able to see how much of the neckband I'm going to cut off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my neckband in there, and I like to spin my wheel all the way until my needles are in and catching that neckband. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull on that quarter point and even out my neckband, raw edges, and then I remove that quarter point and go to the next one and do exactly the same thing where I even them all out and sew. And then I continue this way all the way around. All right, my neckband is done, which means that this top is done. It is so cute. I can't wait for my son to try it on. The sad part is how close this top is to fitting me. My son cannot be getting this big. I just went up a size on all his clothing, so he's getting like basically a new wardrobe because everything is too small. All right, now let's move on to our hood. All right, now we're gonna work on our hood. So here is our hood. This is my liner and my outer. So I'm fitting one right into the other. And we're gonna match up that seam around the top of the hood. We're matching them right sides together. And we're gonna go down to the one side, matching those raw edges, right sides together. And then we're gonna go down the other side as well. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sew it. So we're essentially sewing around the face part of the hood. All right, so once you've sewn around the whole crown of the hood, we're gonna flip it around and tuck your liner into your outer. And if you want to go ahead and top stitch that liner and that outer together, you can go ahead and do that. You don't have to, that's just a preference. I like to top stitch my hoodies, and I like to have just a little bit of my trim of my liner show, so I kind of move it out a little bit, or I use my seam allowance and poke my seam allowance up so that the little trim is showing when I top stitch. I don't know why, I just like the look of that. And then also, or you could do, some people like to do reverse cover stitch on it. So if you want to go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and do that right now and top stitch. Time for our last step, which is attaching our hood. And we are gonna go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and mark my front and my back of my hoodie, just like I did with my other bodice where I did my neckband. So here's my back and here's my front. And really you can go ahead, there's a couple of ways that you can attach the hoodie. And you know, I like some ways better than others. I'm finding my quarters as well, just so I have them there in case I need them. But I'm gonna show you a couple different ways, or I'm gonna tell you about a couple of different ways. So you can either, we are going to end up overlapping our hood 2 inches. So if you want to, you can go ahead and overlap it 2 inches, go ahead and overlap it those 2 inches and base that together, and then quarter your hood and go ahead and attach it like a neckband. Or we can go ahead and grab our bodice. This is my back, so I'm gonna put my back seam right up to my back and pin, And then I'm gonna kind of keep going and pin on the side here. Fuzz. And then I'm gonna come around the front, pin again over here, just real quickly. And then I'm gonna come around the front, and I'm going to go from the half, I'm gonna go over 1 inch this way. So go measure 1 inch, and we're gonna go, that edge of the hoodie is gonna go 1 inch overlap, and then I'm gonna go from the half right here, I'm gonna measure 1 inch, and I'm gonna go 1 inch overlap over here. So essentially, again, they're overlapping those 2 inches, but right now I'm just pinning them down. Okay, so some people find it easier to go ahead and baste them together first, so that way when you go sew, you know, if this hood moves, then you don't have to worry about that. Either way works fine for me. I've done it either way. When it's a bigger overlap, like some of the other hoodies have a bigger overlap, then I go ahead and do it beforehand. But since this is only a 2 inch overlap, I think it will be fine. I'm gonna go ahead and sew around with my sewing machine, stretch stitch, or a serger, and just sew the neckband, the hood on, just like we did the neckband, and we'll be done. Make sure when you're coming around the front that you go ahead and even that piece out so it gets cut there, the piece that's underneath, so it gets cut when you're sewing it. All right, we are done. Our hood is on. Our hoodie is ready. So I've got a hoodie with a hood and a long sleeve, and then I got a hoodie with, well, I guess maybe it's not a hoodie, but it's a top with a neckband and short sleeves. Both super cute. I think my son is gonna love them. So let's move on to doing our fly pants, and our outfit will be completed. All right, time for fly pants, and these are super cute and super quick. You are going to love them. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna grab my front pieces. This is my front, my 2 front pieces. I'm gonna put them right sides together and match up the crotch seam, and we're gonna go ahead and sew that together with a stretch stitch. While we do that sewing together with a stretch stitch, we're also going to grab our pocket, and it's going to be the same way that we did our pocket for our top. So if you're doing both of these at the same time, you can actually just, you know how I like to save time, I would probably just go ahead and do all the pockets at the same time and get them all done and over with. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? And we're gonna sew all the way around the whole area except for the bottom. Y'all, I was thinking about my Zane hoodie, and I told you to sew up the top and leave the bottom raw, because at the Zane hoodie, it goes at the bottom is where the band goes, but this is the opposite. We're gonna put the waistband up top, so we don't have to sew the top, we just gotta sew the bottom. So I went ahead and sewed the bottom because I figured I was gonna have to sew the bottom anyway when I realized it, and I'm just gonna go ahead and remove my serger tail. So what I like to do to remove my serger, or take my serger apart, is to pull out my needle stitch. I figured I'd go ahead and show you this while we're at it when I made the mistake. It makes it super easy if you just remove your needle, and if you can find it, it is amazing. You just remove that, not the loopers, but the 2 needle threads. You just poke them out, pull them right out. And then, magic! I love being able to do this. Now, you just have to make sure that you pull those 2 threads, and there it is, all out. Super easy peasy. And now I'm gonna go ahead and turn my pocket, just like we did on our Zane hoodie, all the way around. And I don't know where I put my, here they are. And poke those corners out. Now if you want to go ahead and top stitch like we did on the other one, those pockets, because you know when we sew the pockets on, when we sew the pocket on, you won't sew those sides where your arms go in. like right here and right here that won't get sewn. So if you want to go ahead and top stitch right here and right here, that way it all matches up, because then when we go to sew it on, we're just going to top stitch this part right here. So I'm going to steam it and I'll go over and top stitch these sides like I did on my other pocket. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and open my pants, and I'm gonna grab my pocket and fold it right sides together and find my half. Obviously right here at the bottom I can't clip it, so I'm just gonna make a pin, put a pin on there. Up here I can actually clip it, so I can just cloop. And then I'm gonna place it right here on this pant, or my pants. And I'm going to match up, see right here where my middle area is, and pin to one side. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and clip it for now, because when we go to sew it, we're gonna sew this part straight to the band. So we wanna make sure we clip it right. And pin right here. We're gonna make sure that we're pinning all these sides together. I'm using pins because when I go to sew it on, I wanna make sure that my, I can't really put clips right here. And I don't want it to move on me, so I'm pinning it. Now I'm gonna go over to my cover stitch, make sure that it's even. See, there's one leg and the other leg is even. It's not gonna like plucker on you. So make sure it's like you see it, that it's even. This is gonna have a little bit of area right there, but that's fine. This has to be even. And I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch this way, over and up to attach my pocket. Don't top stitch where your arms are, where your hands are gonna go. I forgot to tell you something. You were also, when you sewed that other, the fronts together, the crotch seam, you're supposed to do that for the back as well. So go ahead and do that if you didn't do it, because I didn't tell you to do it. But yeah, so now it's ready. So our back is ready and our front is ready, and there's threads everywhere, so we're right on track. We're gonna grab our side seams. We're gonna place our front and back legs right sides together, and we're going to pin all along those sides, both sides, right sides together along those raw edges. Oh, I'm sure you all are curious. I haven't really told you. I'm sorry. I know you all ask me all the time and I forget to tell you. So for my tops, my Zane hoodies, I made the camel is a French terry, the gray is a cotton lycra for the one, and then for the other one, the alligator fabric is a cotton lycra, and then the other fabric is a sweater knit. For these, this fabric is a reverse heathered French terry. So like this side is super, super soft and heathered, and this side is the like French terry side. It's really cool. I like it a lot. And actually this fabric, you could probably use it for like on both sides. Like if you wanted the softness to be on the inside or the outside, super cute. And now, ooh, I totally went on pinning without saying anything. I'm gonna go ahead and pin the inseam already, and so that way I can sew both the outer seams and the inseam at the same time. Not at the same time, like together, but like sew and then sew. But if you want to go ahead and sew the outers first and then the inseam, you can go ahead and do that separately. But I just want to go ahead and sew everything because, you know, I'm always trying to save time. And I think it saves a little bit of time if you just go ahead and pin everything, sew everything, sit here and talk to you for 10 minutes before I actually get to it. No, that doesn't save me any time. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew, and then we'll come back to attach our band and hem our legs, and we are done. That is how simple these pants are. Super simple. All right, our sides are sewn. We're gonna grab our waistband and sew that raw edge together. Let me go ahead and sew that real. Done and done. That was quick. And then I'm gonna go ahead and fold it in half. match those raw edges. And I'm gonna tell you in a little bit what I'm gonna do, but my son has, his waist is skinnier, but he's taller. So what I like to do, so I'm gonna match up and do my quarter points just like I did with everything else. But anyway, so his waist is smaller, but the length is supposed to be, you know, because he's a little bit taller. So what I'm gonna do, instead of sizing down on the band on the waist, I'm going to, when I sew it on, I'm going to leave a little gap, like a 2-inch gap at the back, and I'm gonna try these on him, and they might be a little too loose at the waist because, like I said, his waist is a little bit smaller than the size that I made. And what I'll do is I'll probably just measure his waist and add some elastic. Like I'll probably trim 2 inches off the elastic and sew it together, and put it right through into the waistband, and then sew it together and then close off the waistband, so it gives it a little bit of extra support for his waist, because it's a little bit smaller than the pants. But if it doesn't really, if it's not a whole lot smaller and the pants fit, then I might just leave it. But I'm just gonna leave that opening just so that I don't have to like pick at it, you know, once I'm done. So if you see me leaving an opening, that will be why. So my pants are already quartered because of the fact that we did back, sides, and everything. So I'm gonna grab my pants, I'm gonna grab my waistband, and I'm gonna match those quarter points that I made and pin. And then as I'm sewing, I'm going to stretch my waistband to fit my waist of my pants. And make sure when you sew around that pocket area that you catch your pockets in. If you want to baste your pocket on first, a lot of people like to do that because that way they don't have to worry about it when they're sewing. That's my iron turning off. It's yelling at me. I just go for it. I'm stretching this out and pinning it so that I have it already stretched out, so that way when I go to sew it, it'll all be together. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew that. Then I'm also gonna go ahead and just go ahead and hem my pants by going a 1/2 inch in, steaming, and then sewing them. And I might not go ahead and actually hem them yet because, like I said, I sized up for my son and I want to make sure that the length is good, and see if I have to, you know, go down a little bit, like fold it more. So I went by his size, but I went a little bit higher because I like to make it a little bit bigger because I know he's growing, unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding. I just want him to stay little. But anyway, so I made it a size bigger just because I want it to last longer. So that's why. So 1/2 inch top stitch, but I am gonna go ahead and put him on him first and make sure, and then see how much I have to fold it up and top stitch. So let's sew the band and we'll be done. How cute. How cute. All right, my pants are done. How cute. I love them. I love the pocket detail. There is an option to put loops if you wanted to put loops, but I didn't. I did leave that opening in the back, so if I have to insert elastic and see how it fits him at the waist, I'll do that. And then I'll finish up hemming once I try them on. And then I've got my other things. So here's my top, which will look great with the bottoms, and my other top. And if you wanted to do without the pockets, because now he'll have double set of pockets, then you could do that as well. It really is up to you. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please go get the capsule and sew it all up and come show us your end results. You're going to love it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please comment, like, share, subscribe. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you can be entered for our $50 Ellie and Matt gift certificate giveaway that we do every month. Come check us out on Facebook or on Instagram so you can see what everybody's making, and you can show us what you're making, and we can all be inspired to make beautiful things. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!